Bryan, and Bryce Taylor, and Kathleen Sullivan. I was going to talk a little bit about her tonight, some of the things she had to say about her programming. And the government has allowed to let this information out. Or the Lord has protected them. It's one of the two. They can't always work in ultimate secrecy and be unexposed. Everything that they do eventually comes out to the light and becomes exposed. And so you can read through these books that these ladies have written, Transformation of America, which is if you can get through that one, which is mind-blowing. When you start reading Bryce Taylor's, you realize Transformation of America was an appetizer for Bryce Taylor's Thanks for the Memories, and then that book will just completely blow you away. All of the presidential sex slavery that goes on, the control in the media and the news and our politicians, and it's just prevalent, and it's unreal. But tonight I want to talk about a different aspect that affects thousands, perhaps even millions of other people, and they're not even aware of it. Well, they're aware of it because they experience it nightly, perhaps daily, and nobody addresses it, nobody talks about it, and so that's what I'm going to do tonight, and talk about it. All this programming stuff is not science fiction. What they do is they disassociate a lot of people's minds on these MK Ultra and Monarch programs. And MK Ultra, what that started was Operation Paperclip. When the Nazis came over here after World War II, a lot of their scientists were shuffled over here to the United States underground, and they went to work with NASA. And, of course, NASA spread them out throughout the United States. NASA is probably one of the main organizations and agencies today that is behind mind control programming of American citizens. And so a lot of these scientists went to work with NASA, and it was called MK Ultra, and what this did was there was a section of it that would train girls to become presidential sex slaves. It would break them down into MPDs, multiple personality disorders, and what they would do is fragment their personalities and use different personalities to be used for their programming. And anyone who's been involved with any of these projects that the government has knows that any time that they finally get to initiate that they can break down and divide off into ultra personalities, they always have a beta personality programmed in, and what that is a sex personality. It's a sex slave personality, while the other ones will be trained for different jobs and assignments.
Sherry?
Yeah.
You have a caller?
Okay, go ahead and put them on.
You're up, caller.
Hello, Sherry.
Hello.
This is Claire. I am being tortured by the CIA. They're trying to. I'm a scholarship doctoral student from Stanford. They're trying to destroy my brain tissue with radioactivity, and they have the public obeying on zapping me with chips. It seems like they almost have 100% obedience from the public on this. This is what is really horrifying, and they're putting me through complete public torture.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But also, on the topic of sex slaves, also, they threaten me with making me a sex slave also.
That's what they claim, but you know what, when they come out with stuff like this that exposes it, they just bury it and go further underground and change the name. Because that's what happened with MK.
You have the public under complete control.
Yeah.
It's really frightening. Why is it, people can't speak up and resist them? I don't know what it is. I mean, they say that we're the mind control victims, but I think it's the public that is the victim of mind control. We're victims of torture.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it is. There's so many towers across the United States. If one of their weapons doesn't get you, another one will.
Yeah, I'm trying to leave the country now because I was out of. My parents paid for me to be out of the country for years to get away from this, and it was much better. I don't know how it is now because they say we have the New World Order.
Yeah.
But people were much more sensitive in the countries I was in.
Yeah, I mean, it's prevalent, and if you can leave the country, leave it because
the
ones here
but I'm going to try.
Are victims. Yeah. And that would be my advice to anybody. I mean, I'll go down with the ship. That's my home.
And they give me this voice to scholarship that is so sexist. I never imagined that people could be pigs like this.
Yeah.
They told me they were going to kidnap me and take me to Latin America to become a prostitute, to give fellatio to the CIA, and even my ex-boyfriend would be my client. This ex-boyfriend raped me.
Yeah. And
they're so sick, it has ears on it.
Yeah.
And they're running our government today. They're running the public.
Yep.
The public is obeying them.
Yeah, and people don't realize how much in collusion, exactly how this all fits together with the aliens at the control pulling the strings.
Yeah.
In our government, this is all alien technology.
The sickest, most power-hungry people get to the top.
Yeah, I can't hear you. We've got a really bad connection.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, they do that. They're hacking the cell phone.
Yeah, no, I could understand what you said.
Yeah.
Caller,
I was saying that it seems that the sickest, most power-hungry people get to the top in this.
Caller, you're breaking up real bad. You're going to have to call back on a landline. She's on a robot
cell phone. I'll try some other time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, she was on a very bad connection to begin with on a cell, and I told her we'd try.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's all right. I could hear some of it, and you know what? These people are right, and they're freaking out. They're aware of what's going on. They see all these towers going up, all this elf technology pounding at them daily, and people are becoming aware because they're under assault, and can't blame her for wanting to leave the country. Folks, the call-in line is 260-356-2611. Back to what I was talking about, and I'm going to briefly mention this MK Ultra and Monarch. Monarch is just a name. When they said MK Ultra was dead and no longer existed, it resurfaced later as Project Monarch. And so now that Project Monarch is allegedly dead, it'll resurface again later under a different name. That's how they work. They never get rid of anything. They just bury it underground, change the name, and come back later with it. And so I don't think it's dead for a second. These presidents still have their little mind-controlled sex slaves in the White House, and of course it's coming out more and more now about the sex rings in Washington, D.C., the male prostitutes, Jeff Gannon, in and out of the White House constantly, and you know, it's just all coming out. That, you know, their charade is being broken. But that doesn't help. 268 million American citizens out there right now that are getting bombarded by their mind control technology. And so what I want to talk about is something that's been hitting millions of Americans in their sleep. And this project itself, I don't have a name for it. I have never heard of a name for it. I don't think anybody that has been a victim of this project knows a name for it. And so I don't know what to call it, but it involves targeting people to train as soldiers during martial law in the last days. That is one of the tactics they're using. And these are civilians who will be called up through their programming to take positions of crowd control and other duties when our government is hidden underground and our military is decimated. These brainwashed civilians are being used as a backup force. And I've heard stories from many of these MyLabs, and they're all the same. The MyLabs used to congregate in forums and groups on the Internet until they became heavily infiltrated by the government, and the lists were closed down by the owners to protect the others that were on it, or they were intimidated and harassed by the government until they closed them down. Mind control forums are pretty much the same way, except the mind control forums on the Internet were created by the government itself to keep tabs on those participating in them, to keep tabs on how much they're remembering about their abductions. And so it's really a two-edged sword on the Internet. You can meet others that were involved in similar programs that you may have been abducted into unwittingly and involuntarily. And then when you start to meet others, then the government steps in, and that's usual. That's protocol. And what they'll do is harass the people that own the list until they close them down. And then they keep tabs on everybody on who's remembering what. And this one particular project, these MyLabs have different experiences during their training. Some are trained to shoot weapons. Some are trained to sabotage communication systems. Most of them remember the hunting games. And even Bryce Taylor, I think it is, or it's